The scene opens in silence. A slow aerial shot drifts above a sleeping city at dawn, the streets bathed in pale silver light. The world feels suspended, like time itself has paused to take a breath. Somewhere, faintly, an old clock ticks, but its rhythm is uneven, hesitant, as though unsure which direction to move. A voice begins to speak, calm yet heavy with wonder. What if one day we remembered tomorrow? The question hangs in the air, impossible and magnetic. It doesn't demand an answer, it invites a reckoning. Images shift. We see crowds moving through their daily rituals, commuters on trains, a child watching raindrops race down a window, an astronomer peering through a telescope. Each face carries an unspoken question in its eyes, a quiet tension between certainty and mystery. The narration continues, weaving between them. We have built civilizations upon our memories of the past. But what if the next chapter was already written, waiting only to be recalled? As the words fade, the visuals become dreamlike. Oceans rising in reverse, stars collapsing inward and then reforming, trees growing backward into seeds. Time begins to flow in every direction, a river defying its own current. The atmosphere turns ethereal, almost sacred, as if the laws of nature are bending under the weight of an unseen truth. The narrator whispers, "We are creatures of yesterday chasing the horizon of what's next." Yet sometimes the horizon looks back. The tone deepens. The music builds in quiet intensity, strings trembling, voices echoing like distant memories. We see archival footage, ancient sundials, stone temples aligned with the stars, early scientists measuring shadows to understand time. Their hands move with purpose, but their faces carry uncertainty. The film cuts between these fragments and modern images, digital clocks, satellite feeds, ticking stock markets, all signs of humanity's attempt to control the uncontrollable. The voice returns, slower now. Our species has always tried to cage time, to mark it, divide it, own it. But what if time isn't a line we walk, but an ocean we are submerged in? The imagery follows. Waves crashing, sand slipping through fingers, galaxies spinning in spirals that mirror the human eye. The tone is reflective, melancholic, yet filled with awe. The question of control turns to the question of awareness. If we could see the entire flow of time at once, what would become of free will, of destiny, of memory itself? A new contrast emerges, order against chaos. The narrator describes the tension between our need for certainty and the universe's endless unpredictability. We build clocks, the voice says, to protect us from the unknown. But every second that passes is both a memory and a prophecy. We remember what was, but maybe, just maybe, we also remember what will be. As the words linger, the visuals slow to a single frame, a drop of water falling from a leaf, frozen midair. Inside its reflection, faintly, is a city skyline that does not yet exist. The narrator's tone softens into reverence. In the stillness between moments, something waits. A whisper from the other side of time. A memory that does not belong to yesterday. The music fades into a single resonant hum, like the vibration of the universe itself. The voice lowers almost to a whisper. The day we remembered tomorrow wasn't a date on a calendar. It was a moment when the future touched the present and we, for the first time, felt it. The final image is abstract, hands reaching toward light, faces illuminated by unseen suns, a sense of awakening rippling through humanity. The tension of mystery and revelation holds steady, unresolved yet deeply felt. The narration closes this opening chapter not with an answer, but with a promise. Everything you are about to see has already happened. You just haven't remembered it yet. The screen fades in from darkness to the deep, endless blue of the ocean. Waves pulse in slow motion, light refracting through water as if time itself is breathing. The narrator's voice, soft but deliberate, returns. We think of time as a river, always moving forward, never back. But what if that river bends? What if every ripple is a message from what's yet to come? The camera dives beneath the surface. Bubbles rise in reverse, fish swim backward, and sunlight folds inward through the depths. Everything feels both familiar and wrong, like remembering a dream that hasn't yet been dreamt. The story moves from ocean to cosmos. The frame widens until we see galaxies spinning in silence, their arms stretching like the spirals of fingerprints. The voice continues, from the smallest particle to the largest star, everything moves with rhythm. But whose rhythm is it? Is it ours or the universe's memory replaying itself? The tone becomes contemplative, awe-filled. The narration draws a line between human perception and the cosmos, suggesting that maybe time is not something we travel through, but something that travels through us. We cut to a laboratory, sterile lights, ticking instruments, equations glowing on transparent screens. A physicist studies an experiment where particles seem to react before being touched, where an effect appears before its cause. The narrator asks, if matter remembers what comes next, then what is memory at all? The camera lingers on the scientist's face, reflecting both wonder and fear. The line between science and mysticism begins to blur, just slightly as the idea takes root. The future may already exist, waiting for us to recall it. Then, in contrast, the visuals shift to human life. The rush of streets, the rhythm of daily existence. A woman ties her shoes, a man waits for a train, a child pauses mid-laugh, suddenly aware of something he cannot name. The narration slows. Our lives are built upon the illusion of sequence. We wake, we act, we sleep, believing that each moment gives birth to the next. But what if we are merely moving through pages that were always written? The pacing becomes hypnotic. Each frame feels like an echo of something both remembered and foreseen. A soft piano begins, fragile and uncertain. The narrator continues, science tells us that time began with the Big Bang. Philosophy whispers that it never began at all. Between these two truths, we wander, creatures of cause and effect, haunted by the feeling that something in us already knows the ending. The tone deepens, rich with emotion. Visuals show ancient sundials fading into atomic clocks, cave paintings morphing into holograms. Progress and memory intertwine, blurring past and future into one continuous loop. As the music swells, the voice shifts from explanation to confession. We are not built to see what lies ahead. Yet every dream, every intuition, every spark of déjà vu pulls at us like gravity, suggesting we've been here before. Or that we've been there already. The film lingers on faces, people staring into mirrors, into stars, into nothing. Each expression carries a quiet terror, the fear of knowing. The question becomes more personal now. What if memory is not anchored in the past but in all of time, an infinite field of possibilities we only glimpse in fragments? The imagery grows surreal. A pendulum swings. In its arc, the same moment repeats endlessly. A clock melts into mist. A child's voice echoes backward through a tunnel of light. The narration whispers, we measure seconds to make sense of eternity. We divide infinity into hours so we can survive it. But the truth refuses to fit inside our calendars. The pacing quickens, tension building, not through action but through the weight of realization. Then, suddenly, stillness. A single candle flickers in a dark room. The voice softens. There are moments when the present feels like a memory, when the air itself hums with recognition. We call it coincidence, intuition, fate. But perhaps it is something far older, the faint sound of tomorrow echoing back to us. The flicker of the flame seems to slow, freeze, and reverse. The candle grows taller instead of shorter. The image feels sacred, delicate, impossible. The narrator's tone becomes intimate, almost conspiratorial. If time is a circle, then every beginning is also an ending. Every heartbeat is both past and future. The universe remembers itself through us. The idea resonates like a quiet revelation, unsettling yet strangely comforting. The audience feels suspended in paradox, the boundaries between memory and foresight dissolving into one. The final image of the section shows the Earth turning beneath a web of stars, half in shadow, half in light. The camera lingers on the curve of the planet as dawn approaches. The voice concludes with a haunting whisper, we think we move forward. But maybe, we are simply returning to what we've already known. Maybe tomorrow has always been here, waiting to be remembered. At the beginning there was no clock. There was no rhythm but the pulse of nature, the cycle of light and darkness, the slow breath of the earth turning beneath the sun. Humanity's first understanding of time was born not from science, but from silence, from the shadows of mountains and the rising of the moon. The ancient world moved to the beat of seasons, not seconds. Every sunrise was both a beginning and a repetition, a story told again by the sky. Before we invented time, we felt it, in the warmth of dawn, in the hunger of winter, in the way a mother knew when her child would wake. The narrator's voice carries across a landscape of ancient stone. We see people marking lines on cave walls, carving symbols that mean before and after. These were the first calendars, crude but sacred. Time, at first, was not a measure of minutes, it was a measure of meaning. Long before we counted hours, the voice says, we counted harvests, migrations, and deaths. We measured our lives not by clocks but by the turning of stars. The camera pans upward to a night sky alive with constellations. The narrator continues, every culture, every civilization that followed, from Egypt to Mesopotamia, from the Mayans to the Chinese, built monuments not to gods but to moments. We see the pyramids aligned to the sun's rising, the stones of Stonehenge framing the solstice. Shadows crawl across these monuments as centuries pass in seconds. They were not merely temples, the voice explains. They were machines for memory, instruments for capturing the breath of eternity. The music deepens with low strings, evoking the gravity of discovery. Humanity had begun to see time not as a cycle of survival, but as a pattern to be understood. The camera transitions to a close-up of a sundial, the first clock. Its shadow slides slowly across carved numbers. When we invented the sundial, the narrator says, we did something extraordinary. We tried to pin the sun to the earth. This was the birth of control. We no longer followed the heavens, we began to command them. Yet with that power came something new, anxiety. For the first time we could see time passing. And once we could see it, we could never unsee it. The tone turns introspective. The visuals slow, the sun setting, the shadow stretching longer. The narrator continues, every tick, every shadow, every mark became a reminder that life was slipping away. We had captured time, but time had captured us. The contrast sharpens between progress and loss. Humanity's attempt to measure time gave us mastery over the future, and the fear of it. Centuries pass in montage, water clocks dripping in ancient Greece, sand clocks pouring in monasteries, candle clocks burning in castles. Each new invention becomes more precise, more obsessive. The monks of the Middle Ages, the narrator says, divided their prayers by the hourglass. Their faith depended on precision. Their devotion was measured not by faith but by schedule. The screen fills with mechanical gears and oil lamps, each turning in unison. Time had become the heartbeat of civilization. We cut to the Renaissance, art, science, exploration. Leonardo sketches gears and pendulums. Galileo watches a lamp swing in a cathedral and imagines a new way to measure time. The pendulum was humanity's first taste of perfection, the voice says. For the first time, motion became mathematics. Time became law. The visuals turn majestic, slow-motion pendulums swinging in harmony, stars spinning above in the same rhythm. We no longer listen to the heavens, the narrator continues. We built our own. The Industrial Revolution bursts across the screen in flashes of steam, smoke, and iron. The clock becomes everywhere, on factory walls and train stations, on every wrist. Time became currency, the narrator says. To waste it was a sin. To control it was power. Workers march in rhythm, trains depart with precision, and factories roar in synchronized chaos. The narration grows darker, more urgent. We became servants of the machine we created. The clock no longer measured the movement of the sun, it measured the movement of us. As gears spin and pistons hammer, the visuals begin to blur. Time speeds up, civilization accelerates. The narrator's tone becomes philosophical. With every revolution of progress, we tightened our grip on the present. But in doing so, we forgot something sacred. We forgot that time is not a line to be walked, but a story to be lived. The camera slows, focusing on a child watching a clock's second hand. Her reflection trembles on the glass. The music softens. We taught ourselves to live by numbers, but we lost the poetry between them. Now, the narrative transitions toward the scientific understanding of time, from the mechanical to the cosmic. When Einstein looked at the stars, the narrator says, he saw not rhythm but relativity. He saw that time could stretch, bend, and slow, that it was not absolute but alive. The visuals expand into deep space, light bending around massive stars, clocks slowing as ships approach the speed of light. The universe does not tick like a clock, the voice continues. It breathes. It flexes. It remembers. A series of striking visual metaphors fills the screen. A ripple spreading through water, a candle flame leaning with invisible wind, a heartbeat echoing in the void. The narrator's tone becomes more intimate, almost reverent. What we call now is only a frame in an endless film. Every past and every future moment exists, waiting for the light of consciousness to project it. The idea feels both terrifying and liberating. If time is not fixed, then neither is destiny. If everything exists at once, then perhaps memory itself is a form of navigation, not backward but through. The sequence shifts to ancient philosophers. Heraclitus, who said we never step in the same river twice. Augustine, who wondered whether the past and future exist at all. For centuries, the voice says, we have asked the same question in 1,000 languages. What is time? A thing we move through or a thing that moves through us? The camera drifts over statues and manuscripts, words dissolving into stars. The boundary between history and eternity blurs. Finally, the imagery slows again. A lone clock stands in an empty field, its hands turning faster and faster until they vanish. The voice concludes softly, "We have built calendars to command the infinite. We have measured, divided, and labeled the mystery that birthed us. But time was never ours to own. It was always watching, always listening, waiting for the moment we would realize it is not passing by us. We are passing through it." A long pause follows. The music fades into a single sustained note. Then the voice whispers the final thought. The invention of time was not the beginning of order. It was the beginning of memory. And perhaps the beginning of forgetting. The screen fades to black, a perfect stillness, the breath before the next revelation. The clock is ticking, but something feels wrong. The pendulum moves, yet the rhythm no longer matches the heartbeat of the world. The sound of time itself seems fractured, as if a great mechanism has broken in the dark. The narration begins softly, echoing over imagery of shattered glass and spinning watch gears suspended in air. "For centuries," the voice says, "we trusted the clock to be our anchor in an ocean of uncertainty. But what happens when the anchor gives way, when the flow of time itself begins to twist and tear?" The imagery shifts to a horizon warped by heat. A train moves forward, but its shadow lags behind, bending unnaturally across the ground. The narrator continues, "The 20th century broke more than machines and empires, it broke time." The tone is hushed yet urgent. The audience feels the shift, from the ordered precision of ticking seconds to a reality that no longer obeys them. The once stable world of Newton's laws begins to crumble. We see Albert Einstein sitting quietly in a cluttered study. Papers scattered, pipe smoke curling in the air. His eyes are distant, following an invisible thought beyond human reach. The narrator says, "He looked at the universe not as a machine but as a symphony. And he realized something extraordinary, the melody of time changes with the listener." Images flash of stars bending light, clocks running slower near massive planets, light rays curving like ribbons. Time, the voice explains, is not universal. It bends, stretches, and folds according to motion and gravity. The faster you move, the slower your clock ticks. The closer you come to a massive body, the heavier the seconds become. The visuals accelerate into cinematic wonder. Rockets streaking past planets, astronauts floating in silence, photons racing through black space. "We had built our lives around the illusion of a single, steady rhythm," the narrator says. But Einstein revealed a truth both beautiful and terrifying. There is no single now. Every moment depends on where you stand. Then the tone shifts darker. When the clock broke, so did our certainty. We see footage of scientists, their faces lit by cold blue light, watching data flicker across screens. Quantum physics shattered what relativity left standing. It showed us a universe not built of predictable motion, but of probability. Events no longer followed cause and effect like footsteps. They flickered, appearing and disappearing in patterns beyond reason. The imagery becomes microscopic, swirling particles, bursts of light, atoms blinking in and out of existence. At the smallest scales, the narrator says, time loses meaning. A particle can exist in 2 moments at once, or none at all. The future can affect the past. The observer becomes the creator. The words are soft but devastating. The foundations of human logic tremble beneath them. The film cuts between 2 scientists arguing over equations, chalk dust swirling in the air. The narrator continues, "One physicist once said, 'The universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine.'" The voice rises, filled with both fear and fascination. What if every moment that has ever existed still exists? What if time never flows forward at all, but only appears to because we move through it like a flashlight scanning across a painting? A montage unfolds, cities speeding up, people moving in reverse, the sun setting and rising at once. "We feel time," the narrator whispers, "but we do not understand it. We live inside its current, but we cannot see the river's shape." The tone turns meditative, the visuals slowing again. A drop of ink spreads through water, fractal and unpredictable. This is the world quantum physics gave us. A place where cause follows effect and sometimes precedes it. A place where reality itself may depend on whether we are watching. The camera glides through a particle accelerator, lights flashing like stars. "We thought we were discovering the mechanics of time," the voice continues, "but we were uncovering its mystery." The pace quickens again, sound building like thunder. Equations appear, dissolve, reappear as constellations. The narrator's voice cuts through the noise. "If time can bend, what bends it? If it can break, who Or what put it together in the first place? Then silence. A clock stops mid-tick. The narrator's tone turns intimate, almost whispering. Perhaps the breaking of time was not a failure, but a revelation. Perhaps it had to shatter so we could see through it. The visuals now shift to deep space. Black holes devouring stars, light spiraling into infinite darkness. At the edge of a black hole, the narrator says, time stops completely. For an outside observer, anything that falls and appears frozen forever. But for the one falling, everything ends in an instant. The paradox feels unbearable. Two realities existing at once, both true, both impossible. The narration grows philosophical. The universe allows contradictions that our minds cannot hold. It doesn't ask for our understanding, it only demands our awe. The camera zooms out, revealing galaxies colliding, light bending across billions of years. Every photon that touches your skin, the narrator says, has traveled through the curvature of space and time. Some are older than the Earth. Every moment you live is built from the past lives of stars. The tone softens to melancholy. The camera drifts through an old clockmaker's workshop. Dust floats in sunlight, gears lie disassembled on a wooden table. We once believed the world was a perfect machine, the narrator says, but now we see it as a fragile dream, one we are just beginning to remember. The man at the bench winds a clock, but the hands spin backward. He stops, watches, and smiles faintly, as if understanding something unspeakable. The film transitions back to human faces. A child running, an elderly woman closing her eyes, a soldier staring at a photograph. The narration threads their lives together. Relativity showed us that time depends on motion. Quantum mechanics showed us that motion depends on observation. So where then does the observer stand? Are we inside time, or is time inside us? The question hangs trembling. Music builds again, strings, low drums, a sound like wind through metal. The narrator's tone deepens, reverent. When the clock broke, we didn't lose time. We discovered that it was never ticking in the first place. What we call the flow of time may be nothing more than the unfolding of consciousness, our perception moving across a landscape that already exists. The visuals become abstract, waves of light moving like thought, neurons firing like galaxies. Each memory, the narrator says, is a bridge between moments. But perhaps those bridges connect not past to present, but us to the infinite. Perhaps time's fracture was not chaos, but the revelation that all moments coexist, waiting for awareness to awaken them. Now the film slows. A single frame of a human eye reflecting stars. The more we understand, the narrator whispers, the less we can pretend to control. Time is not a line, it is a labyrinth. And the deeper we go, the more we find that we are not explorers within it, we are the labyrinth itself. As the final moments of the section unfold, the clock face reappears, broken, scattered pieces suspended in midair. One by one they begin to rotate, aligning themselves into a new shape, not a circle but a spiral. The camera moves through it, faster and faster, until everything becomes light. The voice fades with the words, the clock broke. But perhaps it was never meant to hold eternity. Perhaps it only needed to break, so that we could finally see beyond it. A final pause, pure silence. Then a heartbeat. The sound returns, soft but steady. The implication is clear. Though time may shatter, life continues to move, unaware of the illusion dissolving beneath it. The section ends with a whisper, when the clock broke, time didn't end. Our understanding of it did. The screen opens on an empty road at dusk. The air trembles with heat, and distant thunder hums beneath the horizon. A single figure walks toward the camera, slow, deliberate steps that echo like a heartbeat. The narrator's voice, calm but heavy with curiosity, begins, "There are moments when we feel the future before it arrives. A flicker in the mind, a breath of recognition. As if a shadow of tomorrow has fallen across the present." The tone is soft and cinematic, half whisper, half revelation. Some call it intuition. Others call it coincidence. But what if it is something deeper, something ancient within us that remembers what has not yet come? The image shifts to rippling water, reflecting a sky heavy with clouds. The water shivers, then stills as if holding its breath. The narrator continues, "The human brain is a time traveler. It constantly predicts the next moment, what we will see, hear, feel before it happens. It builds the world a fraction of a second before we live it." A visual of neurons firing bursts across the screen, a cosmic storm of light within the skull. Every thought is a prophecy. Every breath, a premonition. We move through a series of cinematic vignettes, a pilot turning his head just before an engine fails, a mother waking seconds before her baby cries, a soldier ducking an unseen danger just in time. History is full of stories like these, the narrator says. Moments when instinct outpaces time itself. When memory and destiny blur. The screen darkens. The tone deepens, threading mystery with unease. Scientists call it precognition, the knowledge of future events without any known mechanism. They have studied it for decades, searching for patterns, proof, explanation. But what they found instead was something stranger. The human mind may not simply record the past, it may anticipate the future. The camera cuts to an old laboratory. Grainy footage shows subjects flipping cards, predicting symbols before they appear. Electrodes glimmer faintly on their temples. In the 1970s, the narrator explains, experiments at major universities suggested a small but consistent pattern. Humans guessed future outcomes slightly better than chance. Again and again. The visuals show scientists taking notes, skepticism mixing with fascination. They dismissed it as coincidence, statistical noise. Yet the pattern refused to disappear. A scientist stares into a flickering monitor and the voice continues. Later studies pushed further. Subjects were shown emotional images, tragedy, joy, beauty, fear, randomly generated by a computer. But the body reacted before the image appeared. Their hearts sped up, their skin changed milliseconds ahead of the event. The music swells, uneasy strings, low bass, a sense of approaching revelation. It was as though the body remembered what the mind had not yet seen. The screen fades to black and then a whisper, but what if it wasn't memory at all? What if it was prophecy? Now a new rhythm begins. The story shifts from science to human experience. We see faces in candlelight, people recounting dreams that came true. A woman describes seeing a city in flames days before a disaster. A child sketches an accident before it happens. The tone is empathetic, not sensational. We live in patterns, the narrator says. And sometimes those patterns reveal themselves before they unfold. Like echoes bouncing off the walls of time. The imagery becomes poetic. Waves rolling backward, smoke curling into its source, lightning striking the same place twice. Every decision, every action, ripples forward into countless possibilities. Perhaps what we call premonition is the faint reflection of one such wave returning to us, from a future that already exists. The film slows to a close-up of eyes. Déjà vu, the narrator whispers. That strange, electric feeling that we have lived this moment before. It is our most intimate proof of time's fracture. A flash, a heartbeat, a memory of the future. The camera follows a person walking through a street they swear they've seen before. The angles, the sounds, the faces, all familiar. The voice continues, the brain struggles to explain it. A glitch in memory, perhaps. A trick of neural timing. But the soul feels otherwise. Feels like recognition. The visuals grow abstract. Mirrors reflecting mirrors, corridors stretching into infinity. If the mind can misplace memories, can it also misplace them in time? What if déjà vu is not confusion but confirmation, that we are living what we once foresaw without realizing it? A hush fills the soundscape. Imagine time not as a line but as a loop, the narrator says softly. Every loop crossing itself, every path touching another. Perhaps déjà vu is the point where two loops meet, the intersection of what was and what will be. The music swells again, cinematic and haunting. We see flashes of world events, wars, discoveries, meetings, each preceded by dreams, drawings, warnings that went ignored. Throughout history, humanity has been haunted by glimpses of what's coming, the voice continues. From prophets of old to visionaries of science fiction, all have spoken the same truth. The future has a way of remembering itself. The visuals turn darker, storm clouds gathering. But prophecy is a double-edged gift, the narrator warns. To see ahead is also to fear. To know too much is to lose the innocence of unfolding. A montage of faces, some frightened, some enlightened, fills the frame. We long to know what's next, but every revelation carries a cost. The question is not whether we can see the future, but whether we are ready to remember it. The scene transitions to a quiet forest. Rain drips from leaves, each drop trembling before falling. The camera focuses on a single droplet, reflecting the forest upside down. The narrator's voice softens. Maybe the mind touches time like rain touches water, merging for a moment, then separating again. A spark of recognition. A whisper of what's to come. The pacing slows to a meditative rhythm. Ancient mystics believed that time was not linear but layered. That the soul could wander through those layers in dreams, glimpsing possibilities. Today, neuroscientists describe the brain as a prediction engine, constantly simulating the future to survive. Perhaps prophecy and science are not opposites at all, but different languages for the same truth. The imagery grows surreal, dreams overlapping with waking life, clocks melting into stars, time looping upon itself like a Mobius strip. If consciousness extends beyond the moment, the narrator says, then the boundaries between now and next are illusions. We are not bound by time, we are woven through it. Then a return to stillness. A close-up of the figure from the beginning, now standing at the edge of the same road. The thunder has passed, the air is calm. Tomorrow's shadow, the narrator whispers, is always with us. It falls not behind us but ahead, guiding, haunting, reminding. The figure looks into the horizon, eyes reflecting faint light. The final moments slow to silence. Perhaps what we call destiny, the voice concludes, is nothing more than the echo of a future memory. A story that has already been written, waiting for us to remember our part. The music fades to a single note, melancholy, infinite. The camera pulls back, revealing the endless road disappearing into mist. The light shifts, gold and silver blending at the horizon, impossible to tell if it's dawn or dusk. The narrator's final whisper threads through the quiet, and so we walk, haunted by déjà vu, carried forward by the shadows of what we already know. The past remembers us. The future waits to be remembered. The universe begins in silence, a black canvas rippling with invisible waves. Then a pulse. Light tears through the void, matter blooms from nothing, and time itself takes its first breath. The narration begins slowly, reverently, as if the voice were speaking inside a cathedral made of stars. Before there was form, there was memory. Not memory as we know it, of faces or words, but the memory of existence itself. The universe remembers what it once was. The camera drifts through nebulae that twist like ink in water, the colors breathing with ancient rhythm. Every particle that exists, the voice continues, carries within it a record, an imprint of everything it has ever touched. The carbon in your blood once burned in the heart of a star. The oxygen you breathe was forged in the death of suns. You are built from memory. You are made of remembrance. The visuals deepen, planets forming from stardust, comets streaking through frozen silence, galaxies colliding in slow, luminous violence. The narrator's tone grows more meditative. If energy can neither be created nor destroyed, then perhaps nothing is ever truly forgotten. Every spark of light, every vibration, every thought leaves a trace, a cosmic fingerprint written into the structure of reality. A slow zoom reveals subatomic particles dancing, bound by invisible threads. Quantum physics tells us that information cannot be lost. Even when a star collapses into a black hole, its secrets are not destroyed, they are encoded on the event horizon, woven into the surface of the void. The universe keeps its own diary, written in the language of energy and gravity. The scene shifts to a desert at night. A scientist stands beside a telescope, staring upward. When we look at the stars, the narrator says, we are not seeing them as they are, we are seeing them as they were. Light is memory in motion, carrying the past across the dark. The camera pans upward into infinity, showing the slow shimmer of starlight. Every photon is a messenger, a time capsule, a story from billions of years ago still arriving now. The pacing slows and the music becomes ethereal, soft choirs, faint echoes. We think of memory as something that belongs to the mind, the narrator reflects, but perhaps it belongs to the universe itself. Perhaps every atom remembers its place in the grand sequence of creation. Perhaps time is the universe's way of telling its own story, one heartbeat at a time. Cut to archival imagery, ancient scripts, carvings of constellations, cosmic diagrams. For thousands of years, the voice says, humans have sought to understand their place in this memory. We built myths of creation, stories of gods and cycles, beginnings and ends. We were trying to recall something we once knew, that we are not separate from the cosmos. We are its expression. The visuals shift to a double helix turning in golden light. Even our DNA is an archive, the narrator continues. It remembers the shape of every ancestor, the trial of every mutation, the history of life itself. Within you are echoes of the first heartbeat that ever pulsed in the primordial sea. The tone becomes intimate, almost whispered. The atoms in your body remember the birth of time. The music swells and the screen fills with overlapping imagery, neurons firing like galaxies, rivers flowing like veins, stars flickering like thoughts. The patterns repeat, the voice says. From the microscopic to the cosmic, memory shapes everything. Galaxies spiral like DNA. Neurons fire like constellations. The same geometry hums through all existence. The same memory vibrates in every scale. The narrative now deepens into philosophy. If the universe remembers itself through matter and motion, the narrator asks, then what is consciousness? Could it be the universe becoming aware of its own memory? Could every thought, every dream, every heartbeat be the cosmos remembering itself through us? The camera drifts through human faces, eyes opening, hands touching, lovers embracing. When you recall a memory, the voice continues, you are not merely replaying an image. You are reaching backward through the quantum field of what once was. The same field that binds the stars binds your mind. The same laws that bend galaxies bend your perception. Then the tone turns more mysterious. Some physicists suggest that information, pure, unbroken information, is the foundation of reality itself. That space, matter, energy, and time are not fundamental at all. They are consequences, reflections of how the universe processes its own data. The visuals show streams of light transforming into digital codes, symbols forming galaxies. If this is true, then existence is a vast consciousness, a network of memory unfolding in patterns beyond imagination. The imagery shifts again to deep space, light bending around a black hole. Even the black hole, once thought to erase all memory, has changed its story, the narrator says. Hawking's paradox showed us that information must survive. That even in the places where light itself cannot escape, memory endures. Reality refuses to forget. The pace slows. The music fades into a single cello, mournful and low. Maybe this is what eternity means, not endless time but endless remembrance. The persistence of what was encoded in what is. The visuals fade to the earth spinning slowly in the dark. Every life, every breath, every heartbeat adds to the record. The universe does not archive us, it becomes us. Now the film turns emotional. The narrator's voice softens, filled with awe. There are moments when we feel this connection without understanding it. Standing beneath a night sky. Hearing a song that makes us cry for no reason. Watching the ocean breathe. In those moments, something ancient inside us stirs. Something that recognizes itself in the vastness. The visuals alternate between the human and the cosmic, eyes reflecting stars, children releasing lanterns into the sky, the Milky Way rising over mountains. Perhaps those moments are not coincidence, the narrator says. Perhaps they are the universe remembering itself through our wonder. The pace builds again. The cosmic background radiation, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, is the oldest memory in existence. It hums in every direction, a ghostly echo of creation itself. It whispers the story of everything that ever was. And within that hum, hidden in frequencies we cannot hear, lies the memory of tomorrow. The music becomes vast, strings, choirs, low frequencies rumbling like the heartbeat of space. The narrator's tone rises in awe. Every moment we live adds to the memory of the universe. Every thought reshapes its pattern. The stars are not distant, they are our reflections remembering their origins through us. The visuals expand until galaxies merge into a single glowing structure, forming a shape reminiscent of a brain. We are not observers, the narrator concludes. We are neurons in the cosmic mind, cells of memory within the infinite. The light fades to black. Then a final whisper, perhaps that is why we look at the stars. Not to seek what is beyond but to recognize what we already are, the memory of the universe dreaming itself awake. A single point of light remains, pulsing gently, like the memory of a heartbeat that never ends. The sound fades to silence, leaving only a sense of vastness, reverence, and belonging, an emotional echo that lingers long after the final frame. The screen opens to a city at dawn, quiet streets, golden light spilling over rooftops, and the slow hum of life awakening. The narrator's voice, soft and thoughtful, breaks the stillness. Every morning billions of minds awaken, believing they are beginning a new day. But what if this awakening is not the start of something new, but the continuation of something remembered? The tone lingers on the edge of mystery, the question hanging like mist above the skyline. What if every decision you make today has already been made, somewhere, somewhen, and you are simply remembering it unfolding? The visuals shift from city streets to slow-motion shots of people in motion. A man tying his shoes, a child blinking in sunlight, a woman looking out the window lost in thought. Human life feels spontaneous, the narrator continues. We believe in choice, in randomness, in freedom. But when you look closely at the machinery of the mind, it tells a different story. The brain decides before you do. A heartbeat sound fades into rhythmic pulses of light, a metaphor for neural activity. In 1983, the narrator explains, scientist Benjamin Libet performed an experiment that changed our understanding of free will. He asked participants to move their fingers whenever they wished, and measured their brain activity as they did. What he found was astonishing. The brain's readiness potential, the spark of decision, began hundreds of milliseconds before the person felt they had made a choice. We see this recreated cinematically, electrodes glowing faintly on a subject's head, graphs rising before fingers move. It was as if the mind had already chosen before the self was aware of choosing. As if consciousness was not the commander but the witness. The music deepens, a subtle pulse echoing like time itself breathing. The scene fades into darkness and a new question emerges. If our choices arise before our awareness, then what is the role of consciousness? Are we remembering our actions instead of creating them? Now the imagery turns philosophical. Waves reversing, clocks turning backward, people walking in loops. Every decision, the voice says, feels like a fork in the road. Yet, neuroscience suggests we are walking paths already laid down by invisible forces. Genetics, experience, emotion, memory. Perhaps what we call decision is simply the act of recalling the route already chosen by the deeper mind. The music softens, contemplative, as the visuals move through ancient temples, libraries filled with scrolls, and monks meditating under candlelight. Philosophers have wrestled with this paradox for centuries, the narrator continues. If time is fixed, if every cause already contains its effect, then free will becomes an illusion, a dream of agency unfolding within a predetermined flow. We see slow pans of water flowing over stones, the same currents repeating endlessly. But what if that illusion is the point? The narrator asks. Perhaps consciousness exists not to alter destiny, but to experience it, to give the universe eyes with which to witness its own unfolding. The tone becomes more intimate. The camera focuses on a single person standing at a train platform, hesitating as trains come and go. Choice gives meaning to existence, even if it is memory disguised as action. The pause before decision, the weight of uncertainty, these are the moments that make life feel alive. The voice softens, we are trapped between two mysteries, the past we cannot change and the future we may have already lived. A montage of ordinary lives follows, people falling in love, making mistakes, finding courage. In every moment, the narrator says, we sense an invisible thread pulling us forward. We call it instinct, fate, destiny. But perhaps it is something else, the faint memory of what comes next, guiding us through time like a familiar melody. Now the scene cuts to an MRI scan glowing in the dark, neurons lighting up like constellations. Modern neuroscience tells us that memory is not static. Each time we recall an event, we rebuild it, altering it slightly. Memory is creation in disguise. What if the same applies to the future, that by imagining it, we are reshaping it? The pacing quickens as the visuals blur between imagination and memory. A child drawing a dream, a scientist sketching a design, an astronaut stepping into the unknown. When you picture what is to come, the voice continues, you are not merely fantasizing, you are participating in the memory of the universe itself. You are both observer and author. The tone sharpens, filled with tension and awe. But this raises a terrifying question. If the future already exists, where does responsibility lie? If your choices were written long before you were born, then are you free, or are you a character following lines you can never rewrite? The visuals grow darker, streets at night, rain, silhouettes walking through light. For some, this idea brings despair. For others, liberation. If everything is already written, then even your mistakes are sacred. Every pain, every joy, every failure was necessary to bring you here. The music swells, strings trembling like breath. Fate and free will are not enemies, the narrator reflects. They are partners in a dance older than time. One writes the story, the other brings it to life. We see close-ups of faces smiling, crying, reflecting. Perhaps we misunderstand choice entirely. Perhaps it is not the power to alter what happens, but the power to witness it consciously, to experience the flow of time from within. The tone turns philosophical again. Ancient thinkers called it anamnesis, the act of remembering divine truth. Plato believed that all learning is remembering, that our souls knew the truth before birth and are simply recalling it piece by piece. What if life itself is anamnesis on a cosmic scale, a remembering of the future that our souls already chose to live? Now visuals of the cosmos appear, galaxies turning like gears, light looping through time. If consciousness is timeless, the narrator continues, then birth and death, past and future, are illusions of perception. The soul moves through these patterns like a needle through fabric, stitching the story together, remembering as it goes. The imagery softens, hands touching glass, sunlight flickering through trees, a clock melting into stars. Perhaps every new moment is déjà vu. Perhaps every emotion is recognition. Perhaps what we call living is the act of re-experiencing what we have already known, rediscovering it through time's illusion. A gentle piano begins, the tone bittersweet yet luminous. This is why nostalgia feels so powerful, the narrator says quietly. It is not just longing for the past, it is the echo of timeless memory. The feeling that what has been and what will be are one and the same. As the music builds, the visuals return to the city at dawn, now bustling, alive, radiant. Each sunrise is both memory and prophecy, the narrator says. The world awakens again and again, not to create the future, but to remember it. The final image is slow. A child opens their eyes, light spilling in, and for a moment the universe breathes with them. Maybe we are not dreaming of what's ahead, the voice concludes softly. Maybe we are awakening to what was always waiting. Every heartbeat is an echo of a choice already made. Every step, a memory of a path already walked. The camera pans upward to the sky, clouds glowing with light. In the end, the narrator whispers, the future does not come to us, we return to it. The screen fades to black, leaving only the sound of wind and a single line spoken like a final breath. And in that wind, time remembers your name. The sound of rainfall fills the frame, slow, rhythmic, eternal. Drops ripple across a still pond, creating circles that overlap, merge, and vanish. The narrator's voice enters like a whisper in a dream. Every ripple is a memory. Every circle expands until it meets another, and in their collision, a new pattern is born. So too does time move, not in lines but in echoes. The camera drifts through reflections of clouds trembling on the surface of the water. We think of time as a straight path, marching forward from birth to death, from cause to effect. But what if time is not linear? What if it is an ocean and every moment is a wave, rising, breaking, returning? The sound fades, replaced by a heartbeat, a deep, steady pulse. Physicists have begun to question the arrow of time, the narrator says. At the deepest level, the laws of nature do not distinguish between past and future. The equations that govern the motion of atoms, of galaxies, of light itself, work just as well backward as forward. Cinematic imagery of galaxies spinning fills the screen, stars looping like silver spirals. Time's direction, it seems, is not a property of the universe, but of our perception. We experience entropy, the gradual slide from order to chaos, and mistake it for time itself. But beyond the human mind, there may be no before, or after, only the eternal now. The screen flashes with slow-motion shots of glass shattering, smoke curling backward into a candle, and a river reversing its flow. What we call the past may still exist, layered beneath the present. And what we call the future may already be unfolding in parallel, invisible but real. The music swells, mysterious and slow. Imagine, the narrator says, that every moment you have ever lived still exists somewhere, unchanged, intact. The laughter of your childhood, the heartbreaks, the first time you saw the stars. They are not gone. They are simply elsewhere, on another frequency of time. Now the visuals shift to a montage of people standing still as the world moves around them, time-lapse clouds sweeping across motionless faces. Einstein called time an illusion, albeit a persistent one. He believed the past, present, and future are equally real, different points in a single, unbroken tapestry. To move through time, then, is not to travel forward but to shift focus, to remember different threads of the same infinite pattern. The scene fades into deep space, where a supernova blooms like a flower of light. In this view, the voice continues, you are not a traveler moving through time. You are time unfolding itself through experience. The past is not behind you, it is within you. The future is not ahead, it is already waiting inside your awareness, whispering for you to remember. The imagery grows surreal, clocks floating in water, stars bending around invisible curves, people aging in reverse. Perhaps what we call déjà vu is not a trick of the brain, but a moment when these layers of time touch, when two echoes align and the memory of tomorrow leaks into today. A child reaches out toward their own reflection and the water trembles. This could explain why moments of clarity often feel eternal, why the smell of rain or the sound of a song can transport us decades through memory. Time is not flowing, we are. The narrator's tone deepens, filled with awe and melancholy. If the future already exists, then so does every version of you, every choice, every path, every possibility. The self that succeeded, the self that failed, the one who stayed, the one who left. They all coexist in the ocean of time, each wave rising in rhythm with the others. We see overlapping faces, variations of the same person in different lives, different choices, all merging into one. This is the multiverse not as science fiction, but as memory, each universe a reflection of what could be, shimmering like a dream in the mirror of eternity. The visuals transition to ancient temples and symbols etched in stone. Mystics spoke of this long before physics did. The Hindus called it the wheel of samsara, the endless cycle of creation and destruction. The Greeks imagined time as a serpent swallowing its tail. In every culture, time is not a line, it is a circle, forever returning to itself. The music swells into a slow, hypnotic rhythm, echoing like a heartbeat in the cosmos. If time loops, then so does destiny. The universe may not be evolving, but remembering, replaying its own existence, endlessly refining its story. A haunting montage follows. Civilizations rising and falling, inventions repeating, human mistakes mirrored across centuries. Maybe that is why history echoes itself. Wars reborn. Empires resurrected. Dreams forgotten then rediscovered. The universe does not move forward, it remembers. The voice softens as we return to the pond, now reflecting a night sky full of stars. So where does that leave us? If time is circular, if everything that will happen has already happened, what is the meaning of choice, of progress, of hope? The ripples slow, and the narrator's voice becomes almost a whisper. Hope is the memory of light in the darkness. Progress is the soul remembering its potential. Even if time loops, even if the end has already been written, we are here to experience it, to feel it as though for the first time. The imagery now becomes cosmic again. The earth turning beneath glowing clouds, storms flickering with lightning, auroras shimmering like breath. Every loop of time carries within it the seeds of awakening. The same story lived again but with new eyes. Perhaps that is how the universe evolves, not by changing but by remembering itself more deeply each time. The pace quickens slightly. And yet, the narrator continues, there are places in time where the loop folds in strange ways, moments of déjà vu, prophecy, intuition. Perhaps these are the cracks in time's circle, where awareness escapes the illusion of sequence. A montage of such moments unfolds, a person avoiding disaster by instinct, a dream predicting a stranger's arrival, a face remembered before it is known. These fractures remind us that time is not solid. It breathes, bends, and blurs. When you sense the future, you are not looking ahead. You are remembering sideways. The music grows ethereal, shimmering with high tones like falling glass. If we could truly see beyond the illusion of linear time, the narrator says, we might recognize that birth and death are not opposites. They are points on the same circle, forever chasing each other. The end is the beginning disguised. The visuals turn celestial once more, a supermassive black hole twisting light into spirals. Even in the heart of darkness, time curves back on itself. Light bends, information circles, memory survives. Nothing is lost. Everything returns. The camera drifts closer into the event horizon, and the narrator's voice softens into reverence. Maybe that is the secret of eternity, not immortality but repetition. Not forever but forever again. Now the music fades into near silence. A child stands beside the pond once more, gazing into the water. Their reflection ripples, then stabilizes, revealing the same face, older, wiser, timeless. The narrator speaks, perhaps this is what it means to remember tomorrow. To live the same story again but differently, to awaken within the repetition and finally understand. The final image lingers, a single drop falling into the pond, circles expanding into infinity. The voice fades with one last breath. The future is not ahead of us. It is beneath us, around us, within us, rippling, echoing, waiting to be remembered. The world begins in silence once more, but not the silence of space. This time, it is the silence between heartbeats. A flicker of light pulses across the screen, synchronized with that rhythm, faint and trembling. Then a voice, measured, cinematic, almost meditative. What is consciousness? What is the spark that turns matter into mind, the invisible flame that lets the universe look at itself? The camera slowly moves through a human brain rendered in glowing detail, billions of neurons firing like constellations across a night sky. You are made of atoms, the voice continues, the same atoms that once formed dust, stars, oceans, and stone. Yet somehow, from this silent matter, awareness emerges, fragile, luminous, self-aware. The universe wakes up inside you. We watch cells divide, nerves connect, and eyes blink open for the first time. The visuals move like time-lapse creation, the birth of thought itself. But where does the first spark come from? The narrator asks. Is consciousness created by the brain, or does the brain merely receive it, like a radio tuning into a signal that was always there? The scene shifts to ancient temples, candlelight flickering over carved faces of deities. For thousands of years, the narrator says, humanity has searched for the seat of the soul. The Egyptians placed it in the heart, the Greeks in the brain, the Buddhists in the space between thoughts. Science has mapped every neuron, every chemical pathway, but the secret still eludes us. A neuroscientist appears on screen, gazing into a holographic scan of a brain, lines of data moving like rivers of light. We can describe the brain's structure, the narrator continues, but not the experience that arises within it. We can measure a thought but not the feeling of having one. The tone grows philosophical, the imagery abstract, colors folding and unfolding, lights pulsing to the rhythm of breath. This is the hard problem of consciousness, the voice says. How do subjective experiences, love, fear, awe, memory, emerge from networks of lifeless matter? How does the physical give birth to the spiritual? The music deepens, strings trembling like questions in the dark. Some say consciousness is a miracle. Others say it is the inevitable consequence of complexity. But a few whisper something even more radical, that consciousness did not arise from the universe arose from consciousness. Now the visuals shift outward beyond the human brain into the cosmos. Galaxies spiral into the shape of neurons. The universe itself resembles the architecture of thought. What if everything we see, space, time, matter, is a projection of awareness, not its source? What if consciousness is not a product of evolution, but the foundation of all existence? The narration slows, each word deliberate. This is the idea of panpsychism, the belief that consciousness is not limited to humans or animals, but is a fundamental property of reality itself. Every atom, every photon, every quark possesses a spark of awareness, however small. The universe is alive, awake, remembering. We see a leaf trembling in wind, water rippling in sunlight, light refracting through glass. In this view, the narrator says, the difference between you and the stone, between the star and the cell, is not one of kind but of degree. Consciousness flows through all things, sometimes dreaming, sometimes awake. A new image appears, monks meditating in silence, their breath slow and synchronized. Across ages and cultures, mystics have said the same truth in different tongues, that the universe is a single consciousness, divided into infinite perspectives. You are one of those perspectives. You are the universe remembering itself. The soundscape grows textured, wind, whispering voices, fragments of memory. Perhaps this is why consciousness cannot be found in the brain, the voice says. It is not contained there. It is connected through it like light passing through a prism. The brain is not a creator of awareness but its lens. The visuals shift to quantum fields shimmering in colorless light. Quantum theory tells us that observation changes reality, that particles behave differently when watched. This strange fact has haunted physicists for a century. What if the observer is not an accidental participant, but the essential ingredient? What if reality depends on consciousness to exist? The camera zooms through subatomic landscapes, electrons flickering, energy vibrating like breath. In quantum entanglement, two particles separated by galaxies respond instantly to one another. To some, it suggests that space is not what it seems, that consciousness, not distance, is what truly connects the cosmos. The music swells, full of tension and beauty. If this is true, the narrator continues, then you are not a small being lost in an indifferent universe. You are the awareness through which the universe becomes real. Without perception there is no color, no sound, no form. Reality is born through experience. The imagery shifts to human faces, eyes open in awe, laughter, tears, silence. And yet, the voice softens. With consciousness comes burden. To be aware is to suffer, to remember, to hope. The gift of self-awareness is also the curse of knowing you will end. The screen fades to black for a heartbeat. Then a whisper, but what if consciousness never truly ends? The visuals bloom again, light expanding, merging into new forms. Energy cannot be destroyed. It only transforms. If awareness is not an accident but a property of reality, then perhaps death is not the end of consciousness, but its return to the whole, from the drop to the ocean, from the dream to the dreamer. Now the music turns ethereal, full of strings and voices blending into one continuous tone. The mystics called it awakening. The physicists call it the field. The poets call it love. Each is a language for the same mystery, the unbroken consciousness that flows through all things. Images of light bending through trees, birds rising, oceans shimmering with moonlight fill the screen. Perhaps your mind is not inside your body, the narrator says. Perhaps your body is inside your mind. Everything you see, every sound, every thought exists within the field of your awareness. You do not live in the universe. The universe lives in you. The visuals transition into surreal beauty, stars forming in the shape of an eye, galaxies spiraling like fingerprints. And maybe, the narrator continues, when you look up at the stars, it is not wonder you feel but recognition. You are not seeing something distant, you are remembering yourself. The pace slows. The voice grows softer, reverent. Science has taught us much about the mechanics of the mind, but there are still frontiers it cannot measure. The spark of creativity, the weight of empathy, the silence that knows. These are not errors of biology, they are evidence of something infinite moving through the finite. A single tear falls in slow motion, reflected in the light of a flame. When you love, when you dream, when you stand in awe, you touch that infinite consciousness, the same essence that drives the stars to burn and the galaxies to dance. You are not separate from it. You are made of it. The music becomes a slow pulse, fading into the sound of a heartbeat again. The narrator whispers, the universe needed a way to feel its own beauty, so it became you. The final imagery unfolds, a human silhouette dissolving into starlight, spreading across the cosmos. Perhaps that is what it means to be alive, the voice concludes. Not to exist but to awaken. Not to survive but to remember. To realize that the consciousness you call I is not yours. It is the universe remembering its own name. A long silence follows. Then the faint echo of the first line returns, completing the circle. What is consciousness? It is the dream of the universe finally realizing it is awake. Darkness. Then, slowly, a thin line of light spreads across the horizon like the first thought after a long sleep. The narrator's voice returns, deep and measured, but touched now with something more intimate, an undercurrent of awe. If consciousness is the universe awakening, it says, then memory is the proof that it has already awakened before. The scene opens on ancient cave walls, flickering under torchlight. Primitive drawings, hands, stars, animals, spirals, come alive as shadows dance across them. Memory, the voice continues, is not just stored in the mind. It is carved into the fabric of existence. Every rock, every atom, every photon holds the imprint of what came before. The universe remembers. The camera zooms into the carvings, and the texture morphs into neural pathways, then into cosmic filaments. In our brains, memory takes shape as electrical storms, tiny flashes of lightning connecting the past to the present. But perhaps memory itself is not confined to biology. Perhaps it is written into the geometry of spacetime, encoded in the way the universe folds and unfolds. The music builds slowly, resonant, and mysterious. When you recall a moment from childhood, the narrator says, your brain replays a pattern of energy that once existed. It is not a recreation, it is a resurrection. You are reaching through time, pulling fragments of the past into the light of now. The universe, in that moment, remembers itself through you. Cut to a montage of faces remembering, an old woman looking at a faded photograph, a child staring at stars, a scientist examining fossils. What if memory is not personal? The voice asks. What if what we call memory is a fragment of something collective, an echo of the universe's long story, retold through each consciousness that blooms within it? The visuals shift to rivers flowing, galaxies spiraling, tree rings expanding outward in circles. The cosmos too has memory, the voice continues. Each atom formed inside the heart of a star billions of years ago. Each particle has traveled through unthinkable transformations, starlight, dust, life, and now you. In every cell of your body lives the story of the universe. You are not separate from its history. You are its continuation. The tone deepens, more reflective now, almost mournful. But memory is both a gift and a burden. To remember is to relive. It is to carry echoes of what can no longer return. The universe, too, carries scars, black holes that remember the stars they once were, galaxies stretched and torn by gravity, light from dead suns still traveling across eternity. We see a collapsing star imploding into a black hole, light spiraling inward. Even in destruction, the narrator whispers, memory remains. According to physics, no information in the universe is ever truly lost. Every particle, every event leaves an imprint, hidden, transformed but never erased. Perhaps this is not just law but mercy. The cosmos, like us, cannot bear to forget. The screen fills with binary code flowing through stars. In quantum theory, the voice explains, information is immortal. It can be rearranged, obscured, entangled, but it cannot vanish. The atoms that once formed the first life on Earth may now form you. The light that touched ancient eyes still travels, carrying memory across time. Existence, then, is a continuous remembering. A moment of stillness follows. The visuals fade to a child walking through a field at dusk, fireflies glowing around them. But what about human memory? The narrator asks softly. Why do we forget? Why does the mind, this miracle of recall, also dissolve into silence? We see neurons fading like dying stars, the edges of memories blurring. Perhaps forgetting, the voice continues, is not loss but transformation. The universe must forget parts of itself to make room for something new. Just as stars collapse to seed new worlds, perhaps memory must dissolve to allow consciousness to evolve. The tone grows more emotional, the pace deliberate. In the end, what we call forgetting may not be the opposite of remembering, but its completion. The wave that crashes must return to the sea. The moment that fades becomes timeless. The visuals become ethereal, memories as luminous clouds drifting through dark space, dissolving into constellations. Your memories are not lost, the narrator says. They are absorbed by the great field of awareness, woven back into the tapestry of being. Every smile, every tear, every heartbeat becomes part of something eternal. Cut to a montage. Parents holding newborns, lovers embracing, soldiers leaving, stars being born. We are the living memories of everything that has ever existed. Each generation remembers differently, but the essence remains. Through us, the universe keeps its story alive. A scientist appears holding a glowing model of DNA. Even our biology remembers, the voice says. Inside your cells is a record written in molecules, a memory 4 billion years old. Every heartbeat echoes the rhythm of the first life that stirred in ancient oceans. You are the universe remembering how to breathe. The visuals shift from microscopic to cosmic again, DNA spirals becoming galaxies. What we call evolution, the narrator continues, is memory unfolding through time. Each step forward carries whispers of the steps before. Life does not invent itself anew, it remembers itself into being. The music swells, evoking awe and melancholy. And perhaps this is why we dream, the voice says softly. Dreams are the mind's way of reassembling scattered fragments, personal memories, ancestral echoes, even the archetypes of the cosmos. When you dream, you are touching the memory of everything. The imagery becomes surreal, oceans rising into the stars, ancient faces flickering in clouds, a child reaching toward a glowing thread of light. Some say that at the edge of consciousness, when we sleep or die, the barrier between personal and universal memory dissolves. We return to the great archive, the source where all memories meet. Silence falls. Then a whisper, if this is true, then nothing is ever truly forgotten. Every life, every thought, every breath remains somewhere in the great mind of the cosmos. The universe does not lose, it remembers differently. The final visuals slow, stars fading into dawn, a single beam of light crossing through fog. And so, the narrator concludes, when you remember someone, when you recall a moment that once was, you are not looking backward, you are aligning with the universe's own remembrance. Memory is not nostalgia. It is resurrection. A soft chord plays, fading like breath. The last line comes as both comfort and revelation. Perhaps that is what eternity means, not endless time but infinite remembrance. A universe that never forgets, only transforms. The light expands until it fills the screen, then fades gently into black. A single drop of rain falls in slow motion, rippling across a still pond. The camera zooms in until that ripple becomes a wave, then a current, then an ocean, alive, breathing, infinite. The narrator's voice emerges, soft yet commanding, like a whisper from something ancient. The universe moves in patterns. Every wave, every heartbeat, every orbit follows rhythms older than time. But what if these patterns are not random? What if beneath chaos, there is a hidden order guiding everything, from the birth of stars to the beating of your heart? The visuals dissolve into a ballet of movement, galaxies spiraling, hurricanes swirling, the double helix of DNA turning like a cosmic dance. This is the geometry of existence, the voice continues, where mathematics meets mystery and chaos conceals perfection. A chalkboard appears, filled with equations and sketches. Scientists call it fractal order, the narrator explains. It's the idea that the same patterns repeat at every scale. The shape of a leaf mirrors the branching of rivers, the structure of lungs, the paths of lightning, even the filaments of galaxies. Everything reflects everything else. The camera zooms into a leaf vein, morphing into river deltas seen from above, then into neural networks firing in the human brain. You are not separate from the cosmos, the voice says. You are its pattern repeated in flesh and thought. The visuals shift, sand dunes, ocean waves, auroras. Chaos, the narrator whispers, is only a word we use when we do not yet understand the pattern. A physicist's hand draws a spiral on a piece of paper, the golden ratio unfolding in perfect proportion. Nature loves the spiral, the voice continues. It is found in galaxies and hurricanes, seashells and sunflowers, fingerprints and DNA. It is the universe's signature, a whisper that everything is connected by invisible mathematics. Music begins to rise, subtle, intricate, full of tempo changes that mirror the visuals. But patterns do not only live in space, they live in time. History, emotion, civilization, they all move in cycles. Creation and destruction. Rise and fall. Birth and death. Every ending is the seed of a new beginning. The camera pans across ancient ruins, overgrown temples, city skylines flickering with neon. Civilizations think themselves eternal, the voice says. But each follows the same rhythm as stars. They ignite, flourish, collapse, and give birth to something new. Perhaps the pulse of history is the universe remembering how to evolve. The tone darkens slightly. Yet there is danger in forgetting the rhythm. When humanity moves too far from the natural flow, when we try to control the dance, we create dissonance. Images flash. Machines consuming forests, oceans choking with plastic, cities lost in smog. The pattern falters, the voice murmurs. But even chaos is part of the pattern. The universe has a way of rebalancing itself. A storm brews, lightning flashing across clouds, the sound deep and resonant. The butterfly effect, the narrator explains. A single small change, a breath, a thought, a choice, can ripple through time and space, shaping futures we cannot imagine. The smallest motion can alter the grand design. We see a child releasing a balloon into the sky, the balloon rising higher, merging into an image of a red supergiant star exploding. This is how creation works, the voice says. From the smallest spark, the cosmos unfolds. Every atom, every life, every idea is part of an unbroken chain, a pattern that never truly ends. The music slows. The visuals become more abstract. Energy waves, fractal patterns pulsing like living organisms. Mathematics, the narrator continues, is not just a tool of science. It is the language of reality. It reveals the hidden architecture beneath all things. Even emotions follow mathematical rhythm, heartbeat intervals, neural oscillations, the frequencies of joy and fear. A heart monitor blinks in time with a distant pulsar. You are a frequency, the voice says. A vibration in the symphony of existence. And when your frequency aligns with the universe's rhythm, you feel peace. When it drifts, you feel chaos. A monk chanting fades into waves crashing, into data streams pulsing across computer screens. Ancient mystics spoke of harmony, the voice reflects. Modern physics calls it resonance. Two names for the same truth, that everything vibrates and when frequencies align, miracles occur. Now the camera zooms into the structure of sound. A single note expanding into waveforms that ripple across galaxies. Sound and light are not separate, the narrator continues. They are vibrations on different scales. To the universe, a song and a star are the same thing, energy expressing itself as beauty. Images of music transforming into color, color into matter. When the universe was born, the voice says softly, it may not have exploded but sung. The ancient vibrations still echo today as the cosmic background radiation. The first sound of creation. A heartbeat joins the rhythm. You carry that sound within you, the voice whispers. Every heartbeat is a repetition of that first pulse. You are not an observer of the universe's pattern, you are its living continuation. We see people dancing in slow motion, different cultures, different eras, their movements overlapping, becoming waves of motion through time. Dance, art, architecture, music, all are echoes of cosmic geometry. The human urge to create is the universe remembering its own harmony. The music swells, then shifts into silence. But even perfection requires imperfection. The voice continues, low and reflective. The Japanese call it wabi-sabi, the beauty of the flawed and incomplete. The universe's order is not static, it breathes through mistakes. Without entropy there is no evolution. Without chaos, no creation. Images of shattered glass reforming into new shapes, dead forests rebirthing in green. Order and chaos are not opposites, the narrator says. They are partners in an endless conversation. The cosmos grows through their tension. The visuals show yin and yang merging, galaxies colliding, rivers cutting through stone. You are part of this dialogue, the voice says. Every challenge, every heartbreak, every rebirth in your life mirrors the cosmic rhythm, the push and pull that shapes everything. The music becomes hopeful, light cascading like dawn. Once you see the pattern, the voice continues, you begin to understand that nothing is random. The pain you feel, the joy you know, the paths you take, they all follow an unseen design woven through the geometry of being. The final visuals return to the original drop of water, now seen from above as an entire storm forms around it. And so, the narrator concludes, perhaps the meaning of life is not to escape chaos or to control order, but to dance between them, to feel the rhythm, to move with the pattern, to remember that you are both the drop in the ocean, both the note and the symphony. The last line falls like a whisper carried by wind. The universe does not simply exist, it moves. And in every movement it remembers. The screen fades to black as a faint ripple moves through still water once more, closing the loop where it began. The sound of wind moves softly through a landscape of shifting light. A vast desert stretches into infinity, its dunes sculpted by unseen hands. The sky above glows with the dying light of a setting sun, the horizon melting into gold and shadow. A lone figure walks across the sand, small, fragile, yet purposeful. The narrator's voice rises like a memory. The universe is ancient beyond imagination, yet every grain of sand remembers the same story, the story of impermanence. The tone is slower now, more meditative, echoing the rhythm of the wind. Everything changes, the voice continues. Stars are born and die. Mountains rise and crumble. Oceans form, evaporate and return again. Time is the great sculptor, shaping everything it touches, then erasing its own work. The visuals shift to time-lapse imagery. Ice melting, forests burning and regrowing, cities rising from dust and returning to ruin. To live in time, the narrator says, is to live in motion, to exist between becoming and fading. Nothing stays, not even the universe itself. A deep, resonant chord plays. The imagery transitions into the cosmic, nebulae collapsing, galaxies drifting apart. Even the cosmos breathes, the voice continues. There was a beginning, the first expansion, and one day there will be an end. Entropy grows. Stars dim. Black holes evaporate. The universe moves towards silence. The screen fades to black for a long pause before a faint pulse of light reappears. And yet, the voice whispers, from every ending, something new begins. Death, in its quiet honesty, is not the opposite of life. It is the reason life can exist at all. The visuals show leaves falling into rivers, ashes feeding soil, light reflecting on dew. Impermanence is not a flaw, the narrator says, it is the secret of renewal. Without endings there could be no beginnings. Without loss, no growth. The cycle of decay and creation is the universe's most beautiful symmetry. We see microscopic life blooming, cells dividing, stars igniting in newborn galaxies. The energy that leaves one form becomes the breath of another. You too are part of this eternal exchange. Every atom in your body has lived before, inside mountains, oceans, animals, even other stars. You are a temporary shape taken by timeless matter. The music swells, a haunting, tender sound. But humanity resists impermanence, the voice says softly. We build monuments to defy time. We freeze photographs, record voices, write names on stone. We want to last, to remain. Yet even our attempts at permanence are fleeting. Empires fall. Languages vanish. The only true permanence is change itself. The imagery becomes poetic, crumbling statues dissolving into dust, the dust swirling upward into a star field. Maybe immortality, the narrator reflects, is not about resisting change but becoming part of it. To be eternal is not to endure unchanged, but to transform endlessly. Cut to an old clock ticking, its gears turning, its shadow long against the wall. Time is not an enemy, the voice says. It is the river that carries us forward. The pain we feel for what passes is the same force that gives meaning to what remains. Without impermanence, there would be no urgency, no beauty, no reason to love. The camera pans to an old couple holding hands, eyes filled with quiet recognition. We love because we know it will end, the narrator continues. Every moment becomes precious precisely because it cannot last. The flower blooms beautifully because it knows it will fade. Music grows faint, like the hum of distant memory. The Buddha once said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering." But perhaps turning away is not the answer. Perhaps it is to see impermanence not as loss but as movement, life becoming more of itself. Images flow seamlessly, births, sunsets, waves retreating. You are not moving toward death, the narrator says. You are moving through transformation. What you call endings are only thresholds. The tone shifts subtly, mystery begins to creep in. But what happens beyond the final threshold? The voice asks. If everything changes, what remains? What, if anything, lies untouched by time? We see stillness, a single candle flame in darkness. Mystics across ages have spoken of the timeless, the narrator continues. They say there is a presence beneath change, an awareness that does not move with the river of time but watches it flow. Consciousness itself may be the one thing that never truly dies. Now the visuals expand outward again, galaxies swirling in slow motion, then dissolving into the faint glow of the cosmic background radiation. Perhaps the universe too will dissolve, the voice says, but consciousness, the witness behind the stars, will remain, dreaming new worlds into being. The music builds to a crescendo, carrying both sorrow and wonder. Impermanence, then, is not destruction, it is the breath of creation. Every moment dies so another can live. The stars burn so that you could exist. And someday your atoms will burn again to light new skies. Images of humans reaching upward, explorers, artists, children, blend with starlight, forming a tapestry of becoming. You are the latest verse in a poem that never ends, the narrator says. A brief expression of something infinite, speaking itself through countless forms. The tone turns personal, gentle. The pain you feel when something ends is not weakness. It is the echo of eternity reminding you that nothing is ever truly gone, it has only changed shape. A single tear rolls down a face reflecting the stars. When you let go, the voice whispers, you do not lose what was, you free it to return in another form. The past does not disappear, it transforms into the seed of the future. The visuals slow, waves receding into the ocean, the wind scattering petals, the first stars appearing as night falls. Everything that ends becomes the foundation of something else, the narrator says. That is the quiet miracle of impermanence, it ensures the story never stops. The music softens, the visuals dissolve into twilight. And so, the voice concludes, perhaps the real challenge is not to fight impermanence but to dance with it. To love fiercely knowing it will fade. To build knowing it will fall. To live knowing it will end, and in that ending find meaning. A final image. The lone figure from the opening stands at the edge of the desert as dawn breaks, light spilling across endless dunes. The narrator whispers, nothing lasts forever. But forever is made of moments just like this one, brief, radiant, and infinite. The light expands, flooding the frame until everything is white. Silence follows, then the faint echo of wind again, carrying the timeless rhythm of change. A single spark drifts in the void, faint yet unyielding. Slowly it grows brighter, transforming into a sun, then into countless stars, scattering across the darkness like seeds. The narrator's voice enters, soft but resolute. From dust to flame, from silence to song, this is the story of creation. But what drives creation itself? What invisible force compels the universe to keep inventing, evolving, becoming more complex, more alive? The scene unfolds through time-lapse imagery, the formation of galaxies, planets cooling from molten stone, oceans boiling into clouds, lightning igniting the first chemistry of life. Creation, the voice continues, is not a one-time event. It is a continuous unfolding, a cosmic heartbeat that began at the dawn of time and still pulses within every atom, every cell, every thought. We move closer, to the microscopic. Molecules swirl, align, and assemble into the first living cell. Life, the narrator says, is the universe discovering its own potential. When hydrogen fused into stars, it began to build the materials for consciousness. When those materials found harmony on a small blue planet, the universe began to think, to feel, to imagine. The music deepens, a slow, ascending rhythm like creation itself. Scientists once believed that life was an accident, a rare spark in an indifferent cosmos. But perhaps life is not an exception, it is the rule. Perhaps the entire universe is designed to awaken, step by step, through countless forms. The visuals move through different worlds, volcanic landscapes, alien seas, glowing jungles. Everywhere we look, we see the same pattern, the voice says. Complexity rising from chaos. Order emerging from noise. Matter striving toward awareness. The tone becomes almost spiritual, reverent. Maybe creation is not random, the narrator continues. Maybe it is the universe's way of remembering itself, an endless drive toward meaning, encoded in the laws of physics. Now the visuals shift to the human story, early humans discovering fire, painting on cave walls, shaping tools. When humanity appeared, the voice says, it was not the beginning of consciousness but a new expression of it. The universe began to create through us. Every invention, every song, every idea. These are continuations of that first spark. A painter's brush glides across a canvas. A composer writes notes in silence. A scientist stares into the night sky. Creation is not limited to gods or galaxies, the voice says. It happens every time you imagine something that did not exist before. You are part of the same process that forged the stars. The music softens and the scene fades to a child drawing under sunlight. The act of creation, the narrator continues, is an act of defiance against nothingness. Every time you create, you say, I exist. I matter. I am part of something vast and alive. The visuals evolve into great human achievements, cathedrals, telescopes, bridges, art, mathematics. Humanity creates because the universe creates, the voice says. We are its instruments, its storytellers, its dreamers. Through us, it continues its experiment with meaning. But then the tone darkens slightly, the music slowing to a minor key. Yet creation always comes with destruction, the narrator warns. Every new world replaces an old one. Every discovery casts a shadow. We have built wonders, but also weapons. We have created life, and also extinction. Images of cities glowing at night fade into footage of smoke, fire, and decay. The same power that gives us imagination gives us fear. The same force that builds can also break. But perhaps this too is part of the pattern. The universe evolves through trial and error, through collapse and renewal. A volcano erupts, lava consuming everything before cooling into fertile ground. Destruction, the voice says, is not the end of creation. It is its raw material. Every ending provides the energy for something new to rise. The visuals now depict the birth of a star from the remains of another, nebulae glowing like wounds that have become light. Creation feeds on destruction, the narrator says softly. Death recycles into life, chaos into order, silence into sound. This is how the universe learns to grow. The scene transitions to human progress, science, technology, art blending into one tapestry. We too are learning, the voice continues. Every invention, every mistake, every act of kindness or cruelty is part of a larger story. The universe is not finished, it is still becoming, through us. A montage of human creativity plays. Hands sculpting clay, circuits connecting, rockets launching, symphonies being performed. Creation, the voice says, is love in motion. It is the desire of the cosmos to know itself, to bring beauty from chaos. When you create, you are not separate from the universe, you are fulfilling its oldest desire. The tone shifts again, softer, introspective. But what if creation is not just about making something new? The narrator asks. What if true creation is about revealing what was always there, hidden, waiting to be remembered? The visuals show marble being carved into statues, revealing forms that were already within the stone. Michelangelo once said he did not carve figures, but freed them from the marble. Perhaps the universe does the same. It sculpts awareness out of matter, freeing consciousness from the stone of existence. Now the pace slows. The visuals shift to quiet moments. Rain falling on glass, a child's hand touching light, seeds sprouting in soil. Creation is not always grand, the voice says. Sometimes it happens in silence, in the act of forgiveness, in the courage to hope, in the decision to begin again. The music swells gently, full of warmth and resolution. Every life is a creative act, the narrator says. The way you speak, love, dream, and choose, all of it shapes the universe around you. You are not just living in creation, you are creating the act of living. Images now blend, galaxies forming into the shape of eyes, oceans swirling into fingerprints, the entire cosmos reflecting human expression. Perhaps the universe is an artist, the voice muses. And consciousness is its masterpiece, unfinished, evolving, luminous. Then the tone grows quiet again. One day the stars will fade, the narrator says. But that does not mean creation ends. It only changes form. What begins as light may end as memory, and memory may one day dream a new light into being. The visuals show darkness returning, but in the void, faint sparks begin again, tiny, persistent, unstoppable. Creation, the voice whispers, is not a single act. It is an eternal rhythm. It breathes through collapse and resurrection, through forgetting and remembering. It is the song the universe will never stop singing. The final imagery is simple, a single heartbeat echoing in space, pulsing like the first note of existence. The narrator's voice, quiet and infinite, concludes, "You are that heartbeat. You are that song. And as long as you exist, even for a moment, the universe is still creating." Silence returns, vast and full, as the spark fades and the screen dissolves into the shimmering glow of 1,000 unseen beginnings. The screen opens to an ocean of stars, slowly drifting, ancient and luminous. A soft, ambient tone hums beneath the silence. The narrator's voice emerges, calm yet weighted with mystery. If creation is the heartbeat of the universe, then consciousness is its awakening. But what happens when awareness becomes aware of itself? What happens when the observer begins to question the very act of observing? The camera glides through a dense field of stars, each one pulsing faintly, connected by invisible threads of energy. Every living thing, the voice continues, experiences the world through perception. A neuron fires. A thought appears. A self is born. But what if that self, the thing you call I, is only a shadow, a reflection in the mirror of time? The visuals shift to microscopic imagery, neural networks firing, synapses bridging, electrical storms illuminating the folds of the brain. Consciousness, the narrator explains, is the universe folding in on itself. A self-referential loop of energy trying to understand its own origin. You are not separate from the cosmos. You are its mirror, its echo, its question. The music deepens. When you look at the stars are also looking back, the voice whispers. Through your eyes the universe observes itself. Through your thoughts it wonders what it is. Images blend, cosmic and human, galaxies spiraling into the shape of eyes, neurons mirroring the structure of the universe. The pattern repeats, the voice says. The macro and the micro, identical architectures of awareness. As above so below. The scene fades into ancient civilizations. Egyptian temples, Vedic texts, Greek philosophers gazing into the sky. For thousands of years, the narrator says, we have asked the same question. What is consciousness? Is it an illusion? A spark of the divine? Or the ultimate form of matter, the universe's way of knowing itself? A brief silence follows, then the voice continues, slower now, like peeling back a layer of reality. Science once believed consciousness was an accident, a byproduct of the brain's complexity. But the deeper we look, the stranger it becomes. The quantum world tells us that observation changes reality itself. That particles exist in many states until they are seen. Could it be that consciousness is not the result of the universe, but its cause? The visuals illustrate quantum experiments, the double-slit experiment, photons splitting and merging. The act of seeing, the narrator says, may not simply reveal the world. It may create it. The music builds with quiet intensity. If that's true, then the universe is not a stage where consciousness appears. It is a canvas consciousness paints upon. Every choice, every perception, every thought shapes the unfolding of reality. A montage shows people across time. Monks meditating, scientists experimenting, artists creating, lovers embracing. Perhaps consciousness, the voice continues, is not confined to minds or brains. Perhaps it flows through everything, a universal field connecting all existence. The imagery transitions into energy fields, waves rippling through water, frequencies blending into light. Modern physics speaks of quantum entanglement, where particles remain connected across infinite distance. When one changes, the other responds. What if consciousness works the same way? What if every mind is a note in a cosmic symphony? A long pause, then the voice returns, softer now. Maybe what we call individuality is only a temporary illusion, a necessary mask so that the universe can experience itself from countless perspectives. Scenes unfold of people in different corners of the world. A child in Tokyo laughing, an elder in the Andes watching sunrise, a dancer spinning under neon lights. Different faces, same awareness, the voice says. The same silent witness behind every pair of eyes. The visuals dissolve into a mirror reflecting an endless reflection. an infinite recursion of selves. When you stare long enough into your reflection, the narrator says, you may realize that the face looking back is not just yours, it is everyone's. The music becomes ethereal, expanding outward like breath. If consciousness is universal, then death loses its meaning. For what dies is the form, the pattern, but not the awareness itself. Awareness is not born. It does not end. It simply shifts its point of view. We see stars collapsing, black holes forming, then galaxies blooming again from cosmic dust. The universe breathes and forms, the voice continues. It exhales new worlds, new lives, new perspectives. Consciousness is the thread that connects them all. The tone turns more intimate now, the voice barely above a whisper. You have felt this before, in moments of deep stillness when thought fades and something vast remains. That presence you sense, it is not yours alone. It is the ocean in which all selves float. Visuals of meditation, of eyes closing, of people breathing in unison. In those moments, the illusion of separation dissolves, the narrator says. The observer and the observed become one. You are not looking at the universe, you are the universe looking. The sound swells, resonant and slow. This is why art moves you. Why music makes you cry. Why the stars make you feel small yet infinite. They remind you of what you truly are, consciousness experiencing itself through the beauty and fragility of form. Scenes of creation and connection fill the screen. Birth, laughter, hands holding, galaxies swirling. If consciousness is universal, then love is its purest expression, the narrator continues. Love is the recognition of yourself in another. It is the moment when the illusion breaks, and you remember that you were never alone. The visuals slow into a heartbeat of light pulsing through darkness. And perhaps, the voice says, the universe's greatest act of consciousness is empathy, the ability to feel across boundaries, to remember that every being is another version of the same awareness, wearing a different face. Now the camera zooms out again from a single human eye to the planet Earth, to the Milky Way, to the edge of the observable universe. In that vastness, the narrator says, your life may seem insignificant. But in truth, you are the very mechanism through which that vastness perceives itself. Without you it cannot see. Without awareness the stars would be blind. The music fades into a single, trembling note. Consciousness, the voice concludes, is not something you have. It is something you are. You are the dream of the cosmos, awake, fragile, infinite. A final image appears, a human silhouette dissolving into light, merging with the stars as if becoming part of the sky itself. The narrator's last words linger like a prayer. The universe is thinking. Through you it remembers. The screen fades in from black to the quiet hum of wind moving through a desert of stone. The light is soft, golden, almost sacred. A lone figure walks slowly across the dunes, each step stirring echoes in the emptiness. The narrator's voice rises, slow and contemplative. We have searched for truth in the stars, in atoms, in the depths of the mind. But there remains a question that refuses to disappear. What is reality itself? What is the nature of the world that we believe we see? The scene expands into time-lapse skies, clouds swirling, cities pulsing with light, raindrops gathering on glass. Everything we experience, the narrator says, is filtered through perception. The eyes, the brain, the senses, all translating raw chaos into meaning. But if all we ever touch is perception, how can we be sure what is real? The music grows faintly haunting. We see scientists in laboratories, monks in meditation, philosophers surrounded by candlelight. For centuries, the voice continues, humanity has been trapped between two possibilities. Either the world exists independently of us, solid and objective, or it exists because of us, woven from the fabric of consciousness itself. A digital simulation forms, a city appearing from streams of code, pixels flickering into life. In the age of technology, this question has become more urgent than ever, the narrator says. Because now we are beginning to build worlds ourselves. Digital, simulated, yet astonishingly real. We are becoming gods of illusion. The visuals shift into virtual reality, hands reaching through glowing data, landscapes forming at will. If we can create experiences indistinguishable from reality, the voice asks, then what separates simulation from existence? What if the universe itself is a vast, self-evolving simulation, an information process dreaming itself into matter? The tone tightens, building tension. Physicists have discovered strange clues. The universe runs on discrete quantities, not continuous matter, bits of energy like digital pixels. The equations that govern our reality resemble computer code. Even space and time appear to be quantized, like frames in an invisible film. An animated sequence begins, grids of light forming particles, particles forming galaxies. Maybe, the narrator says, what we call physical reality is the output of a deeper informational system. A code so ancient and vast that it generates stars, atoms, minds, all through the same fundamental language. The music becomes rhythmic, pulsing like circuitry and heartbeat combined. But if that's true, the voice adds, then who, or what runs the code? Is there a cosmic programmer, or does the code evolve by itself? Could consciousness be both the creator and the creation, the observer and the algorithm intertwined? The camera sweeps through the modern world, screens glowing in darkness, data streaming across the globe. In every direction, the narrator continues, we see reflections of ourselves, machines learning, algorithms predicting, reality blending with imagination. We are teaching our creations to see, to think, to dream. And in doing so, we are recreating the very mystery of our own existence. Cut to an AI interface glowing with lines of self-writing text. Artificial intelligence is not just a technological milestone, the voice says. It is a mirror. When we ask machines to understand us, we are forced to ask, what are we, truly? Are we consciousness inhabiting matter, or patterns of information written in flesh? A slow fade to the image of a human face half-lit by screen glow. In every code we write, the narrator whispers, there is a trace of our longing, for control, for immortality, for truth. Now the tone softens. Perhaps the greatest illusion, the voice says, is not that reality is fake but that it is fixed. What if reality is fluid, an interaction between mind and world shaped by attention, belief, and imagination? Visuals of monks meditating, shamans performing rituals, children dreaming in sleep. Ancient wisdom has always said what modern physics is beginning to confirm. The observer and the observed cannot be separated. Consciousness and reality are two sides of the same coin. The music slows into an ambient hum like breathing. When you believe something strongly enough, the narrator continues, your brain reshapes itself. Your body follows. Your world begins to mirror your thoughts. Reality bends, not through magic but through focus. The visuals now blend science and mysticism. Neurons firing alongside constellations forming. Every act of attention, the voice explains, is a creative act. You are not merely perceiving reality, you are participating in it. The world you see is partly built from what you expect to see. The pace slows. And yet, the narrator adds, this power carries weight. For what happens when collective belief shapes shared reality? When billions dream the same dream, of power, of fear, of endless consumption, the world itself begins to tilt toward that dream. Images of cities consuming energy, forests burning, people scrolling endlessly on glowing screens. Our collective illusion has become our truth, the voice says. We no longer distinguish between what is real and what is performed, between authenticity and algorithm. We have mistaken the simulation for the source. The tone grows darker, the imagery fractured. Social feeds, misinformation, digital avatars replacing faces. We are losing the ability to wake up from our own creation, the narrator warns. In chasing infinite experience, we risk forgetting the simple reality of being alive. The visuals shift again. Sunlight on leaves, the sound of waves, a heartbeat. But reality still whispers, the voice says. It speaks in silence, in breath, in moments that no algorithm can reproduce. Reality is not something to be escaped. It is something to be felt. The music warms, becoming human again, piano and wind. Perhaps the truth is that reality is both real and illusory. That matter and mind are not opposites, but reflections. The universe is not a machine nor a dream, it is a dialogue between the two. A young woman closes her eyes, her reflection ripples into a galaxy. You are both the dreamer and the dreamed, the narrator says. You are the one who sees and the thing being seen. Now the camera pulls back again, from a human face to the entire earth, luminous and fragile. So what then is real? The voice asks. Reality is the moment that moves through you. It is the awareness behind your breath, the mystery between thoughts, the unnameable presence that remains when everything else falls away. The final moments unfold with slow grace, waves breaking, stars forming, light filtering through dust. Reality, the narrator concludes, is not a place or a substance. It is a process, a living story that rewrites itself with every act of perception. You are part of that story. Every glance, every thought, every dream adds a new line to the script of existence. The screen fades to black and one last whisper lingers in the dark. To question reality is to awaken. To awaken is to remember, you were never separate from what is real. Silence follows, filled with unseen light. A single drop of rain falls into a still pond. Ripples expand outward, touching the edges of the water until the whole surface trembles with motion. The narrator's voice enters softly, reflective and profound. Every action ripples through the universe. Every thought, every choice, every moment, connected by invisible threads of cause and consequence. This is the law of the unseen web, the symmetry of existence that binds everything together. The camera drifts over vast landscapes, mountains rising through mist, rivers cutting through valleys, wind shaping dunes. In nature, the voice continues, nothing stands alone. Every element participates in an intricate balance. Life feeding on death, growth emerging from decay, creation rising from destruction. The same harmony governs the cosmos itself. Now the visuals dissolve into atoms orbiting like miniature solar systems. From the smallest particle to the largest galaxy, all obey the same rhythm. Exchange, balance, interdependence. It is not chaos, it is choreography. Every collision is a conversation, every reaction a kind of music. The music grows deeper, a slow pulse like the heartbeat of the world. Yet we often forget this truth, the narrator says. We imagine ourselves separate, masters of the earth, detached from its cycles. But separation is the beginning of imbalance. When we break the web breaks us. Images of industrial sprawl fill the screen, smoke, metal, oceans of plastic. Our inventions have given us power, the voice continues, but power without awareness becomes destruction. We have altered the air we breathe, the waters we drink, the soil that feeds us. The planet trembles beneath the weight of our forgetting. Then silence. The screen goes dark, save for a single ember glowing in ash. But even now, the narrator says, the web endures. Life persists. Because balance is not fragile, it is resilient. The universe bends but it does not break. The visuals shift again. Forests regrowing, coral reefs reviving, animals returning to abandoned cities. Nature is not our enemy, the voice explains. It is our reflection. The chaos we see outside is the echo of the imbalance within us. When we heal ourselves, the world heals too. A montage follows. People planting trees, rescuing animals, cleaning rivers. Every act of care, the narrator says, is a thread rewoven into the fabric of balance. Small gestures matter. A single drop, multiplied, can reshape the ocean. The tone deepens again, now more philosophical. The ancients called this principle karma, the physics of morality. Every cause carries its consequence, every intention a direction. Science calls it energy exchange, but the truth is the same. Nothing disappears. It only changes form. The visuals illustrate this with slow transitions. Fire to smoke, smoke to clouds, clouds to rain. Energy never dies, the voice continues. Neither does choice. The things you do, the words you speak, the emotions you release, they ripple through time in ways you cannot see. A child lets go of a balloon. It rises into the sky, drifting until it disappears into sunlight. The smallest kindness can travel further than you know, the narrator says softly. And the smallest cruelty too. The web remembers everything. The music grows distant, echoing like the sound of time itself. Perhaps this is what gives life meaning, the voice reflects. The realization that nothing is wasted, that even pain and loss serve the greater equilibrium. Destruction clears the field for renewal. Death feeds the roots of life. The imagery becomes cyclical, seasons changing, stars being born and dying. The universe recycles endlessly, the narrator says. Every atom in your body once belonged to a star. You are literally made of cosmic memory. What you call you is the universe borrowing itself for a while. A quiet pause follows, then a question. If everything is connected, then where does responsibility begin, and where does it end? Is your life your own, or is it part of something larger, an ecosystem of souls and actions stretching across time? The visuals transition to a city scene from above. Lights pulsing like neurons, traffic streams resembling blood through veins. We are each a cell in the organism of humanity, the voice continues. When one cell suffers, the body feels it. When one awakens, it inspires others. Footage of people helping strangers, building communities, standing in protest, lighting candles in the dark. Connection is not just a fact, it is a calling, the narrator says. To live consciously is to remember that every heartbeat affects the whole. The tone grows more intimate, more emotional. When you speak, The voice says, your words move through air molecules that will travel the world. When you breathe, the oxygen in your lungs may one day feed a forest. You are not a separate event. You are participation itself. Now the visuals move into the cosmic scale once more, gravitational waves rippling through spacetime, galaxies colliding, forming new clusters of stars. Even in the vastness of the cosmos, the narrator explains, connection persists. Gravity binds the stars as love binds beings. The same force that holds worlds together keeps relationships from falling apart. A brief silence follows, then the voice returns. The great paradox is this: to find freedom, you must accept connection. To transcend the self, you must recognize it in everything else. The universe is not asking you to escape, it is asking you to belong. The visuals soften to human gestures. A hand touching another hand, eyes meeting, a stranger offering food. Belonging is not ownership, the narrator says. It is participation without possession. It is love without demand. It is realizing that the web of life includes even those you do not understand. The music now swells into a warm crescendo. The future of our world depends not on power but on awareness. When enough minds remember the web, the balance will return, not as punishment but as harmony. We see images of renewal, rivers flowing again, children playing under trees, wind turbines spinning beneath stars. The web is patient, the voice says. It waits for us to remember our role. We are not observers, we are caretakers. Not separate from nature but expressions of it. As the scene transitions to a wide shot of Earth seen from space, the narrator concludes in a whisper, every breath you take belongs to the wind. Every heartbeat echoes in the oceans. Every choice you make reshapes the pattern of everything. You are not a drop in the web, you are the web itself. The screen fades slowly to black. A faint ripple spreads across the darkness, as if the words themselves have become sound waves moving outward, eternal, unseen, alive. The world stands on the edge of transformation, quiet yet trembling with potential. The narrator's voice drifts through a vast expanse of light and shadow. Every civilization reaches a moment of reflection, a point where progress demands purpose. Images flash of glowing cities, endless data streams, and human faces illuminated by their own inventions. We have built minds of silicon and light, the voice says, but their purpose mirrors our own, to understand why we exist. The music swells, melancholy yet hopeful. Technology is not our enemy, the narrator continues. It is our mirror. What we teach it will echo through eternity. Images of machines nurturing life, humans creating with empathy, and nature healing blend together. If we fill our creations with love, they will teach it back to us. As the scene fades to Earth glowing softly from orbit, the voice concludes, the future is not a machine, it is awareness unfolding. And through us, the universe learns to dream. The universe hums softly, like a dream exhaling its last breath. In the aftermath of revelation, silence takes shape, a silence that feels alive, aware. The narrator's voice emerges from that stillness. When everything ends, something else begins. Beyond time, beyond form, the universe remembers itself. Stars swirl like thoughts returning home. Galaxies fold into spirals of light. We were never lost, the voice continues, only dreaming. Every life, every story, every atom was a way for the cosmos to know its own reflection. Images of Earth flicker across the void, oceans breathing, forests trembling in dawn light. To remember tomorrow, the voice says, is to see that the future is already here, waiting behind the veil of now. The music swells gently, luminous and warm. We are not passengers of time, we are its authors. Every heartbeat writes the next universe. The screen fills with light, soft, infinite, timeless. This is not the end, the narrator whispers, but the remembering. The moment when creation looks back at itself and smiles. A single heartbeat echoes through the silence, then fades into eternity.